Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar today. Why European students choose Dublin's UCD Smurfit School to study an internationally acclaimed business master's program. My name is Martina and I will be the moderator today on behalf of the prep team. Our first speaker will be Richard Murphy, who is a recruitment and admissions manager. He will give you more details about the application process, available scholarships, career perspectives, and you will learn how a master's degree from Smurfit Business School can bring you a great career success. If you have any questions, of course, please type them in the Q&A box or in the chat box, and our speakers will take time to give you an answer at the end of this session. I think that everything is said. And Richard, I'm giving the floor to you right now.
Thanks, Martina, and hi to everyone watching today. You're very welcome to this short webinar from a very sunny and spring-like Dublin outside. It's beautiful here in Dublin, so I hope wherever you're watching today, it's the similar weather. So what I'm going to do is really quickly introduce you to some of my colleagues here in UCD, University College Dublin, Michael Smurfit Graduate Business School. First, just quickly, myself, I'm an admissions manager here. Richard Murphy's my name. So I predominantly look after all of our European applicants. So hopefully that will be yourself. If you do make an application to us, it'll be me who will be assessing you. And I'm very happy to give you advice as to what course might be best for you and also how to make a good application. I'm also joined today by a couple of other colleagues and some students who are currently here as well. So first on my top left is Yola Maher, who is our International Student Supports Officer. I'm also joined by a fellow admissions manager, Laura Keeley, who's excellent and a really useful bowl of knowledge. So she will also be helping us answer some of the Q&A session at the very end of this today. So please, as Martina mentioned, put your questions into the chat box. I'm also joined by Joseph Kettler, who is our student from Germany, who has joined us and is in our international business course. So you're very welcome, Joseph. I'll be chatting to you and probably another one of our students called Maxence from France in a short while. Basically, the agenda today will be that I'm going to go and have a quick presentation, about 10 or 15 minutes. We're going to then have a chat to our current students. And then we'll hear from Yola Maher, who is our, as I mentioned, International Student Supports Officer, about some of the supports that she and her office and her team help with international students coming to study over here in Ireland. And then at the very end, we'll have a few minutes for the Q&A as well. So please make sure you get some questions ready for us to answer. So without further ado, we'll start on the presentation. So I don't know if many of you today are watching this and know a huge amount about University College Dublin. So that's what this is about. Just to give you a quick overview. We're Ireland's largest university. So we have about 34,000 students. The business school that I'm part of, which is the Michael Smurfit Graduate Business School, is Triple Crown accredited by the AACSB, the AMBA and EQUIS organizations, which basically means this is a fully internationally recognized school, and only 1% of all business schools have this accreditation. And UCD as a university itself is in the top 1% of universities worldwide. So this is an extremely prestigious institute, and it's Ireland's top ranked business school, as I mentioned here as well. And usually we're always in the top 50 or so programs. A little quick overview, I suppose, on the ranking systems that we use are Financial Times and The Economist, and these would be the two most common and popular and probably most prestigious ranking systems that business schools would use. And as you can see there, we do have programs that are always usually in the top 50. Most importantly is probably our SEMS International Management Program, which is ranked 3rd by the Financial Times. So this is actually Ireland's highest ranked program. And as you can see, it's 3rd in the world. So it's an extremely prestigious program. And Maxence, one of our students today, is actually on this program. You can hear from him hopefully later on. We also have other courses like supply chain management, which is ranked 10th by the QS system, and business analytics, marketing, finance, etc., all usually in the top 40 programs in the world. So this is, again, just to mention, a very prestigious business school. I'll talk a little bit more about the courses at the end of this presentation and give you a quick overview of those. Just a real quick overview of where we are. I'm sure most of you are aware of where Ireland is in Europe, and obviously where Dublin is. And you probably excuse the slightly crude drawing that I made today of this Dublin city centre map. But basically, that kind of pink blob you see is effectively the city centre of Dublin. So that's really where everything happens. That's where most of the the tech hubs are. That's most of where the social life is. That is basically it. Now, if you look at the blue area down below it, that is the size of all of the University College Dublins. That's the size of the campus. That just shows you the scale of how big this university is. So again, it's around about a quarter the size of the city centre of Dublin. So it's a pretty big campus. Now, where we are, the Smurfit Business School, is that little yellow blob just to the bottom right of that blue. So you can see we're still a very big campus, about 1,500 students here in the Smurfit Business School. It's only for postgraduate business students. So the unique thing about our business school, unlike a lot of other business schools, we're slightly separate from the main campus, which means it gives a very collaborative, very professional experience for you and all the other top caliber business students that come to study here. So this kind of shows you where we are. So again, we're so connected, and it's only about 10 to 15 minutes into the center of Dublin from where we are as well. So Dublin isn't a massive city, which is really great for connections. And as I mentioned, networking opportunities. So Ireland has a phrase, or I'm sure you're aware of the phrase, of 7 degrees of separation, which is basically that you know someone from somewhere else anywhere in the world by 7 different steps. Well, in Ireland, it's 2. When something we're very proud of. It's a very small but multicultural and multinational and outgoing country. So just for example here, the CEO of the IDA and the UCD Smurfit School, Professor Martin Shanahan, he actually met and welcomed the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, to Dublin very recently. We also have an active alumni network. So we have 100,000 active alumni business around the globe. And that kind of shows you the extent of these networking opportunities that you have both here in Dublin, where you get very close with real, very important people, much easier than you would do if you're in another much bigger city. But also then you also get your alumni network experience. So that is something that is very unique. And these are active alumni as well. It's not just alumni who are kind of, don't really engage with anything. These are people who actually engage with us all the time. A quick note on Ireland as well with regards to its economy, because if you are coming to study, outside of your home country, you can't take apart the business school and the economy of that country where it is. One thing that we pride ourselves in Ireland is that we're actually Europe's fastest growing economy for 5 years in a row, notwithstanding the recent pandemic as well. So we actually have a very positive outlook. So 6.5% growth for 2022 is predicted. We had 16.1% growth in 2021. And even during the peak of the pandemic, we're the only EU country with growth in 2020. So it's a very resilient economy, and most of that is because we're not based on manufacturing, but we have much more of a digital kind of economy, as most people are aware. We actually have 3 times higher growth rate than the EU average. And I think a really important stat that you're probably going to be interested in is how our unemployment rate is dropping to 4% next year, which, as the European Central Bank classifies, that is effectively full employment. And we're already experiencing labor shortages, which, although it sounds bad, that's actually a very positive thing for you, because what we need is people to come into our country and get employed, and no better place to do it than with business school. So again, just a quick note on the type of companies that a lot of graduates would go for. As you know, Dublin is home of a lot of the major headquarters of European and US tech companies. But we also have a big area in medtech and pharma and biopharma companies. We also are experiencing a large growth in fintech and finance, as London, through Brexit, which we won't comment on today, but it has had quite a positive effect here with Dublin with regards to foreign direct investment in those areas coming over to Dublin. So with the top employers, you'll see here, you'll recognize these names. A lot of tech, a lot of consulting would be a large area within Ireland, but this is just a tiny little sample of all the areas and all the different types of companies that our graduates go on to work for. And part of our success is down to our careers team. And here in Smurfit, we have a dedicated Smurfit only careers team. But as a student of UCD, you also have access to the wider university careers team. And with that, they organize 2 events here in Smurfit and 2 events up on the main campus as well. So actually you have 4 careers events that as a UCD student you can attend. And it's at these events where you find that we have top employers who are waiting to come to meet you, particularly here in Smurfit. There's 2 events, usually in September, or beg your pardon, October and in February. And at these events, we have too many employers that are trying to come into us. We actually have to turn people away. So that's down to the reputation and the knowledge that Smurfit business students are the best here in Ireland. So that's something that I think is a really valuable tool in your journey to getting a good job, a career afterwards. Part of the reason why, what we focus on here in Smurfit as well, is that we develop skills that employers want. We don't just churn out graduates based on what we think might be good. We engage with employers, and employers engage with us, and they tell us, well, look, we might want more skills in this type of area, and we will adapt our programs. And I think 3 things that definitely we teach here is that we definitely appreciate different cultures. So our business school is made up of over 60 to 70 different nationalities. We have about 60% of our students are international and 40% are domestic Irish students. So there's an excellent kind of Irish experience whilst also getting a big international, network base and friendship as well. We learn critically. So that's one thing that we try to do, practical and critical. So that's, again, something that employers want, to be able to have this kind of self-directness and to be able to lead. And that's one thing, that's the last point, is develop leaderships. So what we don't just do, again, is trying to get people to work in graduate programs. We're trying to get people to develop a greater sense of their career at a very early stage. And I think that's something that really resonates with employers. So two things here I just want to point out is what probably makes Smurfit quite a unique experience, is that we have 2 programs. One is called, on the left here, called the GLP, the Global Leadership Program. And without going too much into that little graph there, there's basically 3 pillars that you are encouraged to do projects and work for in order to complete this program. And I should add, it's a non-credit program. This is just an extra thing that you can apply for. And I strongly recommend it. It actually came from our MBA program. And employers are loving this at the moment. And not only is it really good for your CV and for employers, but it's also really good for your personal development. And you can see the type of things. We've got leadership, we've got workplace skills, we've got mentoring in here as well. So it's really great to have this particular program, and that we're able to offer you this as part of your Smurfit experience. The second thing, as I mentioned there already, is kind of culture, being aware of different cultures. And this is where our intercultural development program comes into play. And again, this is something that employers really look for, because as the world becomes more open, and big multinational companies have various either headquarters in different countries or different nationalities of staff in a particular place, this is something that people are really like to see in the CV, but also, again, from your own personal development point of view. What does all this lead to? This basically leads to the fact that UCD is the #1 for graduate employability in Ireland for 4 years in a row. And that's quite a phenomenal statistic. But what's even better than that is the Smurfit average employment rate of 94%. So this is extremely high. And it's something that we're very proud of. Again, it is an average rate. Some different courses might be slightly different, but that's the average. So it's a very strong average employment rate. A lot of other top business schools will be in the 80s, but we're usually always in the 90s. A quick note on sustainability, because it's a real buzzword at the moment, and it's something that UCD is particularly proud of. UCD's strategy for the next 4 years has 1 of 4 points is down to sustainability. So it's all about bringing courses, leading by example. So we have an MSc in renewable energy and environmental finance. This is a particular program that has a large area in sustainability. We also have business sustainability has been brought into a lot of our modules as well. And apart from that, though, across our campus, we have green campus initiatives, biodiversities, waste reductions, and we have a huge amount of research going on as well, and things like, and certainly in areas like sustainable fashion, supply chains, obviously, and other areas like this as well. So again, it's something that we really pride ourselves on here in UCD. And we have won awards from this as well. So we're actually in the gold category on the environmental impact list by the QS University Rankings, and 22nd in the world by the Times Higher Education on Impact ranking as well. So again, just a small note on sustainability. International assistance, I have a small slide here, but I might just skip over this really quickly because I know Yola will talk a little bit about this later on. But we do have 5 global centers across the world. And as I mentioned, we have Yola who we'll talk to. We also have a particular student advisor, Nadia, who's excellent and very helpful. And at the moment we have Dr. Linda Yang, who runs the International Cultural Development Program, but is also there to help out with cultural development as well. So just a quick note, I haven't actually talked about it, but we have programs for non-business students. In fact, 60% of our students come from non-business backgrounds. So if you're here today watching this, it's not just for business students. That's one key message I always want to get across. A lot of our students are coming from STEM, from social sciences, medicine, lots of different areas. And I think one of the key things that we try to focus on is leadership development. So again, it's not necessarily about forgetting something that you might have studied in your bachelor degree, even if it wasn't business. It's about using the skills of leadership here so that you can either work in that area or work across in a different area as well. So it really opens up a lot of doors for you. I won't go through a full list of our master's programs because we do have 24 different programs and we get added to most of the time as well. So unlike a lot of other business schools that might focus on maybe 4 or 5, we have our course programs, but we also then have a whole list of other more specific ones. So I would encourage you to have a look at that link there, which is smurfitschool.ie/programs, and you'll see a full list of them. But again, if you have questions, you want to talk about anything more particular at the Q&A session, please put them into the chat box and we'll definitely get through them. But just obviously just to mention that we have areas like management, like our SEMS International Management Program. We have business analytics, we have innovation, finance, marketing programs. So we have a full suite of very comprehensive business programs. So just one slide I have here. Just that might be of interest to you today, assuming that you are coming from one of our European countries, is that we have probably most of our European students would look at applying for the SEMS International Management, or as a small little note there, IB, and IB stands for International Business, which is what Joseph is on. I'll talk to him in just a minute about that. And they're 2 very strong programs, particularly obviously SEMS, and SEMS is we are part of a global alliance of 34 other top business schools from each country. And you would study one module, one semester here with us, and another semester with the top business school abroad. And then you come back and do an internship. It's a very interesting, quite a unique program. Our international business program also has opportunities where you can study abroad as well, and is also very highly sought after by European students. We also have a lot of people interested in strategic management, management consultancy, digital innovation, and one of our 5 finance programs, like our MSc in finance, which is usually top 30 ranked, or renewable energy in finance, and aviation finance, quantitative finance. There's a large number of different finance programs that we have. But those would be mostly the top ones that EU students would look at, but there's lots of other ones there that you might see too. We also have part-time programs, and that's an important thing to note. As a European student, you're obviously free to work here in Ireland full-time, which allows you then to study one of our courses part-time. And actually what's brand new for this year is our MSc in Project Management, which is an online course, can actually be taught remotely. So you don't actually need to come to study here in Dublin to do our MSc Project Management part-time program. So more details about that we can give out. One of my last slides, just a small thing, some of the key differences to maybe Ireland, and I use this Ireland versus Europe. Obviously we're Europe, but just I suppose more continental Europe countries like Germany or France. And this is just picked up on me doing this job for a good few years and having lots of conversations with students from these countries. This is what you guys tell me, is that what we have is a very practical teaching environment. So again, I think a lot of German students will come to me and say in particular that one thing that they miss out on is the practical element. It's quite more academic and there's theses to write. But the good news here is that you don't have to write theses to finish your master's program. So you can take an internship or do a research project. So again, it's all about being much more practical. We even have a marketing program that is purely practical. It's called our marketing practice program. So it's something that we pride ourselves on. And even by Irish standards, the way that we teach is very practical as well. One of the key things is that we do our masters over 1 year. Now, I know this is available across Europe, but a lot of European countries and institutes will take 2 years to complete a master's program. Now, this is the same level 9 on the EFQ. This is the same level masters as you would get over 2 years. In fact, people will say ours is obviously better and higher quality because it's Triple Crown accredited across the world, etc. So, that can be an advantage to a lot of people. A lot of people would come here to study because they can get it done in 1 year, which then allows you to get ahead of your peers and actually get into the workplace a bit earlier as well. So definitely one point to mention. Again, similar to sort of point 1 here, we have a lot of industry involvement. So everything from our teachers, our lecturers here, a lot of these guys are involved with actual industry at the moment. We have a lot of internships and research projects and case studies. We also have field trips. So this is something, again, about how we teach here in Smurfit. It's quite different to maybe what you might have been used to. And fees, the slight negative people might say is that there are fees here in Ireland for our masters here in the business school. Now, these fees can range in price. I won't quote them right now, but if you want to go to our website, you'll see what they are. But having done some research on this, our fees are 72% lower than the top 50 business school average. And ourselves would be in that top 50. So it's important to note that even though we do have some fees, you're getting excellent value for your investment if you do come to study here. We also have a large range of scholarships as well. So there is definitely some funding that we can assist with, although I would always stress the point of don't rely on getting a scholarship to come here to study. And again, a lot of other European students would actually receive funding from your home country because, again, being in Europe, that funding of a scholarship, say if it's a local scholarship, can actually be used, say if you got it from Italy or from Germany, can be used here in Ireland as well because it's all to do with the European structure. So just bear that in mind. So last slide, I just want to really quickly give some admissions tips because I think it's important just to mention today that if you are watching, it's useful always to get a little bit of value from these things rather than just learning all about the school. So as admissions manager, there's kind of 3 things I really quickly want to touch on here today. The first thing is with regards to documentation. A lot of people ask us, can you submit an application without, say, having an English language certificate or without having your full transcripts or degree completed? Yes is the answer. And that's really important because a lot of European applicants might actually decide to hang on and wait until they get an English language test or get their full degree or get a reference. What I'm saying to you today is, particularly because of the time of year that we're in, make your application as soon as you can. You don't need to have all those documents. We can make a decision based on your performance. You have to show some, obviously, transcripts. So we will gauge your score, your average score, your expected score. We don't necessarily always require references, and certainly not if it's making you, if you're waiting 2 or 3 weeks to get a reference from an academic or from a business. Definitely get your application in without those, and we can make you a conditional offer. And the condition would be based on you obviously finishing your degree with a certain score and potentially doing an English language test in the meantime. So that's just something that's really important to stress, particularly because we here in Smurfit operate on a rolling admissions basis, and a lot of our places are quite full at this stage already. So we are hoping that you would get an application in quite soon in the next few weeks. There are 2 essay questions, and it's no secret as to what these essays are. The first question is, why should we pick you? And that's quite an open-ended one. But here, what I'm looking for is to see that you've done some research, I think, on the type of person that we want in this particular course. So to see that your expectations are going to be managed by what we're going to deliver. So I think that's just really useful. It is a bit of an easier question to answer because it is something that's really open-ended. So it's just that I'm looking to see things like leadership, things that I might not necessarily see in your CV, just anything that can add a bit of color to you. The second question is one that I probably put more emphasis on, and that is effectively, where will you see yourself working in 5 years' time after studying with us? So for that one, I really want to make sure that you've done your research. Perhaps you've reached out and talked to some students who've done this particular program. Maybe you've gone on to LinkedIn and you've seen where our graduates have gone to, that you understand, again, what this course can deliver. And on that point, definitely the last point here today, talk to us in admissions. This isn't like a test. We're not teachers and lecturers who don't want to hear from you. We want to see your application and then we make a judgment. It's quite, as you can see, this is quite an open admissions process where I will give you some advice to help you make the best application you can. And again, we can talk to our current student ambassadors on our website too, which I can put a link to in the chat box in a little while, or our alumni via LinkedIn as well, who are always, as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, extremely happy and helpful. So definitely do reach out to people. So that pretty much brings me to the end of the presentation. And I think just one thing I would like to give out today is my email. So my email is richard.murphy. It's my name, richard.murphy@ucd.e. If anyone has direct questions, they want to talk to me or maybe set up an individual one-to-one over the next few weeks, I'll be very happy to do that. So please just reach out to me directly and I'll be very happy to talk to you. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides now, and I'm going to introduce two students who are currently studying here with us today. So Joseph and Maxence, I might ask you to switch on your cameras. Hi, Joseph. Hi, Maxence. So I'll just quickly introduce you both again. So Joseph, I'll go with you, Joseph, first. You're on my screen first. Joseph is a German student who's currently doing our international business program. Joseph, have you got a one-sentence summary maybe about yourself, where you've come from?
I'm from Germany, from the south, more or less, and I'm doing international business. I don't know. I would keep it with that for the moment.
I caught you on the hop, Joseph. I'm sorry. Maxence, I might ask you the same question too. Maxence, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, so I'm French and I have studied in 3 different countries before coming to UCD, so a high international exposure, and this is what you can expect to find in the SEMS program particularly. But I think in IB it's the same as well, like so many people are coming from different countries, so the cultural mix at UCD master's program are really high.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Well, look, actually on that point, I'll ask you maybe Joseph first. Joseph, like obviously, as Maxence mentioned, we have a large amount of international students in our courses. So I remember meeting you at a fair in Munich. But aside from that, I mean, what were the main reasons why you chose to study here in Ireland and in Smurfit?
Well, I would say that the truth is that when I was finishing my undergraduate in Germany, I was looking for a country where I can do my master's abroad and do it especially in English. And coming from mainland Europe, I would say like the first option is always you're thinking of England, Scotland, UK in general. And then it happened that we went to that master's fair and we kind of got reminded that there's still Ireland, and so we had a look at Ireland and at UCD, but also at different universities from Ireland. I mean, I'm sure some of you know their names, but it's more like within Ireland, UCD is obviously outstanding. So you mentioned it all. You had all the facts in your slides, Richard. And it's really international, and all, yeah, the good parts about it. And then depending on what background you have, what you are looking for to do afterwards, depending on which course you are choosing, but you will always find a course that suits you best, I would say.
Thanks, Joseph. Maxence, I might just quickly come to you too. It's a similar question, but I suppose with you, Maxence, you were going for our SEMS program. And as I talked about in the presentation, SEMS is an alliance of, 34 other top business schools. So you're obviously, and you both are, but Maxence, for SEMS, it's a very difficult process in some ways because you have a very high caliber student comes here. You won't have a lot of other choices. So again, why did you choose Smurfit over maybe one of the other top business schools?
That was a difficult choice at the beginning, but after that I know like more of the programs in depth, like reading articles, connect with current students. For me, it was obvious to apply for a position in the SEMS program here at UCD. But I would say like the three main pillars is like, first, it's a one-year program, so it's not as extensive as other programs. So it's really nice, like condensed, I would say, because for most of the school it's like 2 years, but it's we have the same number of hours of classes and so on. So it was, I prefer to do in 1 year. Then living in your hectic cities where you have so much professional opportunities here in Ireland. So it's really easy to connect with recruiters, and UCD is really famous in Ireland, all across Ireland, not especially in Dublin. So it was easy for us to get internship or full-time position. And as well, like the limited number of places of seats, I would say in the cohort, like we are around 50, and you have like 27, I think, nationalities, between 25 and 30 each year. So it's really interactive with the people, and it's an amazing experience.
That's great. That's good to hear. And actually, yeah, I think you touched on you know, the difference or just coming to Dublin and how that is. Maxence, I might just ask you, it was recently St. Patrick's weekend. Apart from that, how are you finding Dublin and Dublin life, just from a student's point of view, not necessarily from a career perspective point of view, but just from a living point of view?
It's getting better and better, because when we arrived in January, because I was on exchange the first semester, like it was yet under COVID restrictions. So it was difficult at the beginning to go out. You have limited number of space in restaurants and so on. But further on, like later on, it was totally different. And now it's becoming like all the activities are opened, and even people are getting back to work. So like even the city center is much more active, and you have like really nice opportunities, like professional opportunities is what we have all highlighted in the cohort. It's like Dublin is really crazy, and you, whatever the industry you would like to work for, you will have opportunities. And Irish people are amazing in the sense that it's easy to connect or just to talk with, to get insights from one industry or another, and just to have a bit more knowledge, and to not go into a career without having insights, like precious insights. So it's really nice.
Great. Joseph, I met you, and actually, if you don't mind me saying, your partner in Munich, and you both came over, which is great. Can I ask you just on your journey coming from Munich over to here, like how was that for you? Did you find assistance from us here in UCD?
Well, yes, generally, obviously. I mean, that's, I think, one of the main advices I would give out to everyone who's thinking of coming over to UCD. I mean, personally, Richard, you were there, but you helped me or us a lot. Because of COVID, we even postponed our coming to UCD for 1 year. And apart from that, UCD offers so much help in any cases where you might need some help where you can think of. Personally, for us, the most challenging part, to be honest, was finding accommodation. As you mentioned, we came as a couple, and unfortunately, when we came last year, there were no couple options at the UCD residences. As far as I heard, now there are, so that might be easier now. But that's the really thing which is different from Germany. So it's like, don't get stressed out if you don't find an accommodation like 2 weeks before, because what happens most is the people come over, find something for 1 or 2 weeks where they can stay in Airbnb or something, or maybe they have a friend who's already living here, and then you start searching while you are already here, because it's the accommodations are offered just in the moment where they're actually available, and not when the owners know that someone is moving out. So if you're looking for off-campus accommodation, in most cases, you will find something when you are already here.
Yeah, that's good advice. And actually, Yola will talk about this in just a few minutes as well, give some advice to anyone who might be interested in watching in regards to sort of accommodation and what her and her team help out with as well. Just before I go back to Maxence, Joseph, just have you had a really, what's been your sort of favorite experience so far? And then again, like I appreciate, Joseph and Maxence, that you both were here, you know, last September in the middle of COVID, like it was everywhere. But I mean, I don't just mean you know, socially. But I mean, what's been one of your best experiences of UCD, do you think, Joseph, so far?
In terms of studying or in terms of living in Dublin in general?
You can give both if you wanted, but one of each if you have them.
Well, what I would say, like in terms of studying, I would say there's not one specific moment. It's more that it's kind of enjoying every lesson, the fact that we are so international, like Maxence already mentioned it, but also for our course, we are somewhere around 70 people this year, and we have so many nationalities, and it's just interesting, like in each and every lecture where we get to a discussion part where we're discussing things going on, it's like you really notice the influence and the background of so many different parts of the world coming together and discussing the same topic, and it's just like it helps you develop your ability to see a certain topic from a different point of view. So that's more I would say an ongoing experience. And then for like living in Dublin, for me personally, it was just like 2 weeks ago, when it was Six Nations, which is rugby. I don't know if everyone is aware of that. I knew rugby, of course.
I'd say Maxence is, Maxence is very happy with his team's performance.
Yeah, indeed.
I can, but that was a good game though. But anyway, so what I wanted to say is like, rugby is really not a big thing in Germany, but it was amazing to see how the people were out here, going to the pubs, going to city center in general, sitting together, and probably it's not really Dublin connected, but but Dublin is a big part of it. The fact that we are post-COVID now, we are allowed to go out again. There are no restrictions anymore at all. You can sit in pubs, you can sit as close and with as many people you want. And then just adding the fact that we are in Ireland, people are friendly, people are really open, really outgoing, and it's just they're just they really welcoming. So so we were sitting in a pub watching that game against England, which was tense, and Ireland won at the end, but everyone went mad in there, and it was great to see, and it was just it was a great night or evening, whatever, afternoon, and it was fun, and it really kind of showed a bit of the Irish culture and soul, and that's what you can find with several situations. As long as it's up to sports, Irish people go crazy, and it's always fun to see that.
We don't have much to celebrate usually in Ireland with regards to sport. I mean, certainly not our football team anyway. So thankfully, there's one sports team in Ireland that's doing reasonably well in rugby. So Maxence, how about you? Have you found that kind of level of hospitality here and welcome here in Ireland too?
Yeah, I think Joseph stole my words. Like, I have exactly the same experience. Like, I would say basically kind of the same stuff, like the interaction between the students and with the administration, like it's totally different since the beginning for me. Since my application process, I had the opportunity to connect with you, Richard, and to have insights about the program, and you're really frank. So it was I appreciate it a lot comparing to like other universities where all is beautiful and all is magic, and once you get in, you could be really disappointed. So you just talked me like really nicely in the way for me to have like the pros and the cons, and I really enjoyed it. So to be really transparent with the people. So for me, it was really different from the other application that I have done, and I really appreciated it. And then here, like the interaction with the people, it's, as you said, Joseph, before, like we're all going out together, we're socializing, we're helping each other for recruiting process and so on. Like, as it's not extensive cohorts, we are able just to connect easily with people and to share major moments here in Ireland. So professionally and personally, I think you can grow up really easily here in Ireland.
Great, that's very kind words. Thanks, Maxence. I think it's important to note that that's definitely something we do try to pride ourselves on here, which is I wouldn't even call it managing people's expectations, but I think it's you're right. Like, I think people, students like yourselves, you're smart, you're clever, you're top caliber. You can't promise you the world. If it's we've got to be upfront and honest, and I think that's something that we try to portray here in UCD. So certainly that if you're coming to talk to us about, you know, career stats or perspectives, you know, employment opportunities, like, we will be honest. And I think particularly because of COVID, the last few years has been sort of difficult for us to be that honest, to say that, you know, the world hasn't been a great place. But thankfully that is, as Joseph's mentioned, already past us now. And as I mentioned some stats in our recent slides there from the last, you know, economic report that we've had here just only 2 months ago, is that, you know, the stats are looking really good for things like career and employment prospects. So thankfully I don't need to dress anything up. We have very good stats here, and that's a really useful thing to do. Just before we pass over to Yola, maybe I'll just go really quickly, one sentence each. Maybe Joseph, I'll start with you. Joseph, have you got one piece of advice to any incoming or potential student who might be watching this today?
I would say, if you have any question, mail Richard. That's probably the easiest one, to be honest. No, I think, make sure that you have an idea what you're going for, and more, like it was mentioned already, do some research and know what you're looking, and not, so don't expect that it happens to be exactly what you are expecting, but try to get to know what's gonna happen beforehand, because then you are easier. It's easier for you to kind of just get right into it and get starting, because that's one fact. I mean, we've talking about all the like free time and lovely people and going out and so on and so forth, but it doesn't matter, like, or apart from that, the main reason why you would come here is still for studying. And that's one thing I kind of have to say. It is tough, it is challenging, and it will challenge you from day one from your lectures. So make sure that you're not coming here for enjoying your time, but you're actually coming for studying hard. But obviously you do it for the payoff. And Richard mentioned it, and also Maxence did. The payoff will be there if you put your effort into it. The payoff will be there, because that's why UCD has so good stats in terms of employment or the other numbers that were mentioned. But yeah, make sure that you're willing to do it, and then it's the right choice for you to come here.
Thanks, Joseph. Maxence, in 10 seconds, have you got one piece of advice to give?
Yeah, first things, yeah, that everyone is unique. So like every experience is valuable. That is like an association of professionally. We do not have exactly the same background, and that's the force of our program, is like you can meet people from several backgrounds. And if you can get in, like say yes to every adventure like your people are proposing to you, because it's where you can meet very nice people, I think, and to discover a nice place in Ireland. So that's my final word.
Great. Great. Listen, I want to say thank you again to both Joseph and to Maxence for joining us today. You might just stay on for a little while we do the Q&A, in case anyone has any questions for you both. So without delaying anything more, apologies, Yola. I'm going to introduce Yola Maher again. And Yola Maher, just for anyone who's tuned in, is our International Student Supports Officer. And Yola is going to give a small presentation. Thanks, Yola.
Thank you so much, Richard, and well done, Joseph and Maxence. I really love your comments, and grab every opportunity. Don't say no to anything, and that's a real true spirit of being an international student, I think, anywhere, not just in Ireland. I've prepared a couple of slides for you guys, just to give you an overview of support services available to students here in UCD Smurfit School. In my role, it's a dedicated post to support international students in Ireland. So I basically assist students from the moment you guys apply for a program or even inquire about a program here. I'm the person to talk to in terms of the logistics of how do I figure out moving to Ireland. So I support students throughout what we call an onboarding journey. I help with immigration advice. I direct students to where to find accommodation. I'm basically here to help you in the logistics of moving to Ireland. I have this absolutely fabulous handbook. It's very long and very colorful, but I believe it contains all the essential information. So what I'm going to do is just show you a few pages from my handbook, and I'll put a link to it in the chat in a few minutes. So if you're interested to find out a few more details about you know, what it takes, or how do I move to Ireland, or is it going to be a massive struggle? How do I prepare, basically? This handbook should be very useful. And as a backup, my email address will be there as well, so you're more than welcome to drop me an email. In the handbook, there is links to Ireland's student ambassadors. This is a countrywide initiative talking about basically current students talking about studying in Ireland. So just to broaden your sort of understanding of studying here in this country, you can read a blog, follow an Instagram account, and also listen to stories on the YouTube as well. I think it's good to give you a bit of a taste and confidence in making a decision to come to Ireland. If you're looking for very specific information, cost of living in Ireland, there is a link as well in my handbook. It kind of outlines the basic costs. Obviously, you know, things can come more expensive or cheaper. This is quite an average cost, but it's important also when you're planning to move to Ireland to have an understanding how much it's going to cost, okay? Additionally, there is plenty of information about how to secure accommodation, whether it's on campus or off campus. So we will have plenty of brochures and testimonials. We have video testimonials, we have guides. There also will be a webinar coming up in mid-May. So again, in my handbook, there's loads of resources. And at the end of the day, you can always drop me an email as well. Again, if you're doing research on living in Ireland, being a student in Ireland, there is a brilliant website called citizensinformation.ie that basically provides information on anything and everything in Ireland. It does refer to citizens, but it doesn't necessarily cover only citizens. It's residents as well. So anybody who's coming to Ireland, and pretty much any topic that you'd be interested in, okay? So that's just another resource. That's really it. It's really high level sort of flagging to you that the service is there. So I'm here to support anyone, and not from the moment you start with us. It's from the moment you think, Ireland, would I want to study in Ireland? I'm there to help you to make a decision. And as Joseph has mentioned as well, we're not here to talk you into studying in Ireland. We're here to support your decision. It's a year of your life. You know, it's really important that this investment works for you. So whether you link up with Richard, myself, or our careers support staff as well, our objective is to make sure that you make an informed decision. And as Joseph mentioned, that you research your options really well, and you also manage your expectations well as well. So if you have a query about application, it's smurfit.admissions@ucd.ie. And for any queries with regards to study in Ireland, it's yola.mar@ucd.ie. Richard, I'm going to hand it back to you, if that's okay.
Thanks, Yola. That was really informative, really helpful. And I hope that gave anyone watching a really quick overview of the massive job that you guys do in helping our students or our applicants come over to us. So thanks, Yola.
Thank you.
Please do stick around for the next few minutes, because we've got about 10 minutes now just to answer some of the questions that you guys have been putting into the Q&A box. So again, I would encourage you to use this time. If you haven't got a question typed in, please type it in now, and we'll try to get to it. So I might just bring my colleague Laura into the conversation. Hi, Laura. Have you been monitoring the Q&A box there? Is there anything that looks like a good question you want to put out?
Yeah, so thank you all so much for your questions throughout the webinar. So we're going to answer as many as we can now. And there has been a few questions about, is this webinar recorded? So it is recorded. You're going to get a link in the coming days by email. And we'll also have a recording on our YouTube channel, so the UCD Smurfit YouTube channel as well. And also on our website, Richard's posted some links there in the chat. Under our events page, we do have recordings of all our webinars there too. So this webinar is recorded and you'll be able to watch it again in the coming days. We also have some questions about the application process, Richard. So a lot of students are asking, you know, what makes a good application? What do we look for when students are applying? Could maybe give the students about the application. What do we look for as admissions managers?
Yeah, sorry, Laura, I think you put it there, but I think you were asking just what makes a good application, right? Yeah, it's a really good question, and look, it's one that I would and probably could talk for an hour, as you know, Laura, on this subject. But look, I think I touched on a couple of things there. One is the essay questions. That is something that we put a lot of emphasis on here as admissions managers, because look, yes, you've got your academics. They tend to be a bit more black or white. Look, you either meet our requirements or you kind of don't. But if you're on the verge of not meeting our requirements, that's when we really look at your essays to say, right, well, why did you include reasons as to why maybe you didn't perform well? And that's one thing I think I definitely would look for. I think I look for honesty. So if there is a bad grade on your transcripts, or there is something that you might think is negative, well, turn that into a positive. Turn it into a positive by being honest about it and just telling us as the reasons why I didn't enjoy this module in finance that brought my grades down. That's why I want to do marketing, you know, instead, or something like that. And I think that's really useful, because if you don't address that in your essays, then we might not understand that was the reason why, you know, your score is so low. So look, your essays are very, very important to take some time over, but also be succinct. So be short and to the point. You know, don't write, you know, pages and pages of essays, because we have to read tens of thousands of essays every year. So I'm not saying make our jobs easier, but what I'm trying to say to you is that it's really important, I think, to be able to talk about yourself in a quite you know, succinct and brief manner, and really get your points across quite quickly. Other than that, I think one of the other things that we try to look for is any other documentation that you might have. So you don't have to have these. Now, the great thing about UCD Business School is that we don't require a GMAT test. So you might be applying to elsewhere and you might be doing a GMAT. Now, if you have a GMAT test or a similar test and you want to include it, by all means do, particularly if it's a good score. So, you know, include that in. If there's other certificates or short courses you might have taken, include that information as well. So to be honest with you, just a really good application is one that is well laid out and labeled. So you save your files into transcripts, you save your CV, and you'll save any other documentation and just label everything nice and clearly and have it all laid out nicely. Also, if your transcripts or other information isn't in English, we would ask you to translate that. Now, most universities have the English translation within it already, or get you an English version of it. But the main thing at this stage in the year now is just to start your application if you haven't already, and get into the system, because as I said, it's a rolling basis. So just get that in, and we can have a conversation about what else you might need to do.
Thanks, Richard. And there's another application question in regards to SEMS and the references. So do you have to have the references before you make your application?
No, great question. And no is the answer. Again, a little bit like what I've just touched on. You don't necessarily need to have all that documentation, like your English language, like your fully completed transcripts. It's about starting the application, submitting it, and then if we feel we need more information from you, we will get back to you. So often with references, it's usually an academic reference and a work reference. Now, sometimes they can come out to you very quickly. Maybe you have them already. If you have them, include them. But if you don't, and you're asking a former manager or a former lecturer for your essay, I know from personal experience, this can take weeks, sometimes even months to get them. So don't wait for them. Stick your application in, particularly in relation to SEMS, put your application in without them. But we do need you to have them before you might get to an interview stage. So that's just one thing to be aware of. So just get on top of it, but submit your application without them is okay.
Thank you. And we're getting some questions about scholarships as well. So all the scholarships are available on our website. So we have a link there in the chat. But just to mention, with the scholarships, a lot of them are you're eligible once you apply and get an offer from the school. So what we do is we look at your application. So what Richard was saying is really to make sure that you submit a really good application, because that's what the scholarships are based on. So we look at your final academic results and your application to the school. So in terms of scholarships, majority of them, once you make an application, you're considered for them. And if you want to find out more information, I would recommend going straight to our website. You can see which ones you're eligible for there as well. We are getting some questions as well about just applying for programs. So the applications are open at the moment. So we're taking applications for September 2022. And so if you are thinking of applying, we would say to try and apply as soon as you can. And so they are 1 year long programs, and we only have one intake. So it's September every year. And if you're looking at next year, you'd be applying from October 1st. So we do have applications open at the moment, and therefore our September 2022 intake. Richard, we just have a few questions as well about just the learning, whether it's hybrid, if it's in person. So that would be that question for next year.
In person. Look, obviously, you know, hopefully everything's past us, but you know, we can't predict the future. But look, the way things are at the moment is UCD's always response has been that we are in face-to-face teaching institute, and the best learning experience that you can have is one that involves a large bit of networking, group projects, etc. All those things that make an in-person face-to-face teaching important. So basically, UCD, apart from that online part-time program I just mentioned, the project management, which is UCD's first, business school's first online only program, which is a separate one because there's still the in-person face-to-face project management as well. So it's important to note that what we will be striving for, as always, is face-to-face teaching. And certainly there are no plans for that to change for this coming intake in September.
Great. And just the final question, it's in just regards to exchange programs. So do we offer exchange programs on any of the MSc?
That's a really good question, actually. And Yola, if you're there, you might actually maybe, would it be all right if you maybe answer that one? I think because we're working on things together at the moment, but just you might be the best person to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. We do have exchange agreements with a number of schools in Europe. We are, as Richard mentions, we are working on making the offer or the package more sort of custom-made for particular programs as such. At the moment, those exchange opportunities are only offered to limited number of programs. And the reason being is that our master's is a short program. It's only a year. It's quite condensed. So it's really, really busy. So for you guys to go away, it would be the whole semester. And it's just not as simple as it sounds. But to give you an answer, yes, there are, and we're working on expanding the offering and expanding the number of programs that we can offer the exchange opportunities to. But at the moment, it's very specific for specific programs. If you have more questions, just drop us an email and we can give you more detailed information.
Thanks, Yola. And thanks, Laura. I think that's pretty much the end of the questions, and it is 4 o'clock now, so our time is up. So I just want to say a big thank you again to everyone who's taken part today. So obviously to Yola Manor, our International Student Supports Officer, to Laura Keeley, my fellow admissions manager, to Joseph Kettler, who's our international business student. Maxence has had to run off because he's in class, so he was very kind of him to join. I also want to say thanks to Gillian in the background from our marketing team who's helped do this, and to the team from Access, Martina there as well. So we're going to sign off, but I would just say 2 last things very quickly. The first one is, as we've always said already, please email us. And my email I've given out already is richard.murphy@ucd.ie. You can email us at smurfit.admissions@ucd as well if you want. And the second thing is, if you are seriously thinking about applying, apply as soon as you can. I'm not just saying that. It is quite late in the year. You really do need to get an application in, and we'll be very happy to look at it as soon as you get it in, or to start a conversation at the very least. So hope you found this useful, and I hope that we might see you in a sunny Dublin very soon. So Thank you to everyone again, and best of luck. Bye-bye.